I worked summers as a camp counselor in the northern parts of Ontario, Canada. On the date this particular incident occurred, I was camping with a group of 10-year-old boys on the same lake the summer camp was based on. So, like a routine camping trip, we canoe out to the site and set up our tents. Me and my co-counselor, Mike, take turns supervising the kids while they swim, build forts, and play games. We cook some food over the fire, sit around and tell stories, and cook s'mores, the typical Canadian camping experience. Around 9:30ish, I tell the kids it's time for bed, and they head into their tents, which were positioned a small walk away from the shoreline but still in the line of sight from where we had the fire pit. So the kids have gone to bed, and me and Mike are shooting the shit by the water, smoking a cigarette, just basically hanging out before we head into our own tent and call it a night. What happened next still troubles me to this day and remains my go-to scary campfire story. We were both gazing into the pitch black night water when we saw a small light approaching us slowly and slightly above water level. We speculated what it could possibly be for a few minutes before it came close enough for us to see that it was mounted on the front of a kayak and that someone was approaching our campsite. Now, it is important to note that as a camp counselor, part of our training goes over how to deal with stranger encounters in an environment where we're responsible for a group of children on public property. I was prepared to give the mystery paddler the typical speech about how we're camping with a group from a recognized organization and we would respectfully ask that they find another campsite. However, this person's appearance shook me to the bone as the light drew nearer. Paddling this kayak was a woman who looked to be in her 60s. She had incredibly long wisps of gray hair that was trailing in the water. Her skin looked like old leather, and her dead-looking eyes were tough to spot under all her wrinkles. She looked directly at me, and when she spoke, I realized she was missing most of her teeth. "Are all of your children safe in bed?" she asked me, pointing in the direction of the tents. Not really knowing how to respond, and quite frankly shitting myself, I responded by telling her that they were fine, and she had to leave. "That's good, just as expected for this time," she said with a smile, then turned her kayak and paddled off into the night. At this point in time, myself and Mike were legitimately very creeped out, and not only be the appearance of this mystery woman who resembled a freaking corpse, but also her inquiry on the whereabouts and safety of the kids we had brought on this trip. Not knowing what else to do, we grabbed our hunting knives and sat by the fire after checking in on the kids. Half an hour later is where shit started to get really creepy. Across the lake, a female counselor was leading another trip for kids the same age group. She sent me a text which read something along the lines of, "Hey Sean, stop screwing with us. This isn't funny. My kids are really creeped out." I instantly called her and let her know I just had seen someone near my campsite that seemed eerie and that I was not trying to play a joke. Apparently, one of their kids had opened their tent door to take a piss and had seen a woman with long hair standing with her arms opened wide towards them near the shoreline.
Number 2.
This happened about 2 weeks ago to me and my brother, and it is still freaking us out. My brother is 14, and I'm 17. We live in British Columbia in Canada, in a farming area. Not much happens here. Anyway, we were messing around in our dad's office because he is an audiophile and has a shit ton of expensive equipment, and we mess around with it when him and my mom are out of town. Total setup is probably around $30,000. At around 4 p.m., we heard a little branch breaking outside, and didn't think anything about it, maybe a little raccoon. My brother was trying to play rap songs on the sound system, but kept fucking about, so I took a little nap. At around 6, My brother violently wakes me up and says he hears someone laughing by the back porch. Side note on my brother, he's 6'4", 190 pounds of pure muscle, but gets scared easily. And I'm 5'9", about 140 pounds. So being the big brother, I had to go check it out. It was really creepy. It got louder and louder, and we started freaking the fuck out. We couldn't see the guy because of the garage blocking the view from any window. He grabbed a Thor War hammer replica made out of steel. I panicked and picked up a 3-day-old plate with nacho cheese stains on it. When we got out there, we saw nothing, ran back inside, and called our parents, whom swiftly turned their car around and headed back home. 9 p.m. rolled around, and we heard someone tapping on the door in a really fucked up way. I can't describe it, like he was molesting the door. My brother called 911, and we ran upstairs, but the area we live in has no surrounding community. Really, it would take a while to get here. We ran to his room and pushed his closed dresser in front of the door. After about 5 minutes of sweat, and my brother crying, suddenly boom! Was all we heard for the next 30 seconds. That fucker was trying to break in. The 911 dispatcher was still on the line and said they couldn't find the house. Where we live is cut off by a mountainside, so the only way to get to us is by back roads and trails. That's when my brother jumped to his computer and over the Wi-Fi played the loudest sound you'd ever heard. It was the loudest beat drop I ever heard. The cops eventually heard it and found us, but it was still too late. He was long gone, and he got scared, I guess. Fast forward to last week, they found the same guy trying to break into another person's house, and they pinpointed it to our case with his weird-ass knocking technique. He was technically insane and had walked out of the mental health facility and found our house. The cops told us he heard SpongeBob playing on the TV and wanted to watch it with us. Thanks, Nickelodeon.